Let's turn our attention to the war in Ukraine as President Volodymyr Zelensky acknowledges battlefield progress has been slower than desired. He was speaking to the BBC in an interview. President Zelensky says some people believe this is a Hollywood movie and expect results now, reiterating that it's not. He says the military push is not going easily because 200,000 square kilometers of Ukrainian territory has been mined by Russian forces. He reinforces the need for Ukraine to be given security guarantees from NATO, but says ultimately the goal is membership of the defensive alliance. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg said earlier this week that there's no plan on the table to issue an invitation to Ukraine at next month's summit in Lithuania. Meanwhile, UN Secretary of State Antony Blinken says the U.S. has pledged to send additional $1.3 billion in aid to Ukraine to help it overhaul its energy grid and modernize its ports, railways, border crossings and other critical infrastructure. The new aid comes on top of more than $20 billion in economic and development assistance the United States has provided to Ukraine. He was speaking at the Ukraine Recovery Conference in London, holding today and tomorrow in Britain.
I'm announcing that every investment that we make in Ukraine's recovery is aimed at bringing Ukrainians closer to that reality. And today, I'm announcing that with the support of the United States Congress, we will provide more than $1.3 billion in additional aid to help Ukraine toward that goal. But make no mistake, all of these reforms and recovery efforts depend on Ukraine having the capacity to deter and defend against future attacks by Russia. That's why, even as we invest in Ukraine's immediate and long-term recovery, we also have to build a Ukrainian military that is strong enough to protect Ukraine's sovereignty, its territorial integrity, and its independence. Not just to defend Ukraine's land, but to defend all that Ukrainians are building and will build on that land. Even as we come together here in London, committed to supporting Ukraine's build-up, Russia continues to try to burn it down. So, let's be clear. Russia is causing Ukraine's destruction, and Russia will eventually bear the cost of Ukraine's reconstruction.
Staying with the conference, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen says the continental bloc has a special responsibility towards Ukraine in the long term. She made the comment as she outlined investment plans for the country. Ms. von der Leyen says Ukraine is sending a powerful message to private investors.
I believe the European Union has a special responsibility. And the reason is simple. We heard the President. Ukrainians tell us that when they imagine their future, they see Europe's flag flying over their cities. And I have no doubt that Ukraine will be part of our union. So today, Ukraine has accelerated its reform agenda with impressive speed and resolve. We in the European Union want to match efforts and dedication. And this is why today the European Commission presents a new oral update on the progress Ukraine made, on judicial reform, on anti-corruption, on new laws for media freedom and international minorities, for example. With these reforms, Ukraine also sends a powerful message to private investors. We need the private sector to step into, because it is you, the private sector, with your invaluable expertise and your financial firepower that will help Ukraine realize its dreams. You're here today at this conference, and we really need you, and we know we can rely on you.
And host of the Ukraine Recovery Conference, British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak also announced a framework for war risk insurance, which could pave the way for de-risking investment. According to him, this is a huge step forward towards helping insurers underwrite investments into Ukraine, removing one of the biggest barriers and giving investors the confidence they need to act. A senior Ukrainian official says Ukraine is seeking up to $40 billion to fund the first part of a green Marshall Plan to rebuild its economy, including developing a coal-free steel industry. The total bill will be huge, with Ukraine, the World Bank, the European Commission and the United Nations estimated in March that the cost was at $411 billion for the first year of the war. It could easily reach more than $1 trillion.
So there is no better place to announce today the new London Conference framework for war risk insurance. This is a huge step forward towards helping insurers to underwrite investments into Ukraine, removing one of the biggest barriers and giving investors the confidence they need to act. With this and everything that we do here, we are sending a message that our support on the battlefield and beyond cannot be outlasted, and that Ukraine's incredible spirit will prevail.
Let's get more on this. The VOA's Anna Chernikova joins us now from Kyiv. Anna, great to see you today.
Good evening.
Yes, so yesterday we mentioned the EU's decision to raise $1.3 billion for Ukraine. Now there's even more funds being pledged to rebuild energy infrastructure and other critical areas that need repair and specific projects. Is this good news for Ukrainians who have heard similar promises in recent past?
Well, definitely great sign, definitely great news. And of course, there is a big hope that this would be implemented at last and realized. We're also hearing that there are some funds which are to be allocated to Ukraine now already, so not waiting for the war to end. Some funds are the funds which are supposed to be for the reconstruction after the war, but in general we can see that a lot of funds are used in order to support, as you mentioned correctly, energy sector first of all, also certain reconstructions and rebuilding in the areas where where people continue to live despite the destructions, and especially we're talking about the territories which have been liberated and basically people have no place to go. I mean, you can, of course, there is evacuation from some places because they're just destroyed completely, but some areas which are damaged very badly, people definitely prefer to stay home and they need support. So definitely great time. Definitely for Ukraine, it's really important that it's not only military support, but also this kind of support.
And earlier, President Volodymyr Zelenskiy said that the war is like a movie to some people, but he just said that nobody should expect quick results. He tried to describe the difficulty in moving troops forward, especially in Russian-occupied areas. Can this still be described as a success on the part of the Ukrainians?
He also mentioned actually that Ukraine takes its speed for liberation and in general in all the operations. I think that for Ukraine, if we talk about success, it is, well, success is to be determined probably when the results coming mostly, but in general we are hearing that, and Ukrainian government is providing this information already, that certain advances are made. So definitely it's success because as President Zelensky mentioned, and also for Ukrainians in general, every meter and centimeter of their land which is liberated is already a success, because this means that the soldiers who are fighting there, they are, they are fighting for this result and hopefully staying alive. However, there are a lot of losses, of course. But anyway, more territories are liberated, more people in the future will be alive. So not only military, but also civilians. So definitely, and the fact that this counteroffensive has already started and certain results are already revealed is, well, considered by a lot of people as certain success already, because of course for long months we haven't heard about any advances. And yeah, but again, we better talk about success when certain results are seen, because for the moment this is just, as the experts say and as military officials say, it's just the beginning and just certain point-to-point operations happening.
Right, and Anna, NATO says that, well, Jens Stoltenberg said that there are no plans to invite Ukraine to NATO at next month's, event in Lithuania. Is this a blow to Ukraine, and is it something that the Russians would be happy about?
I think that here in Ukraine there is no illusion that NATO would invite country in war to join NATO. Definitely people, of course there are a lot of emotional reactions to that, and there are different emotions people have, but in general, and this is also is explained to the society by those who understand this kind of things, like experts and government. There is no illusion that it would be invitation of the country at war, but as Ukrainian president said, and also as Ukrainian officials are mentioning all the time, that Ukraine is expecting certain serious steps and serious announcements to be made as a future of Ukraine in NATO. So definitely Ukraine is expecting certain, and especially this comes to the topic of providing security, additional security for Ukraine, even not as a member of NATO. So the security plan and defense of the support of the defense capacities of Ukraine. This is definitely something that Ukraine is expecting to hear about at the summit. So here we should divide this into the invitation to join NATO and steps taken before this invitation comes and before this joining comes. So I think this, at least here inside the country, more people are concentrated now on that. What gonna be, what would be the proposal? Which proposal would be on the table at the summit?
Right, Anna, thank you for that update. And please continue to be safe.
Thank you.
Let's move on. More on the conference in London on Ukraine. Ukraine's Prime Minister Denis Shmyhal says his country needs over $6 billion in the next 12 months to help recover from Russia's war. He says Ukraine has set ambitious goals of securing pledges for this amount as a result of the conference.
Conference framework.
Thank you so much, dear James. Currently, more than 200 projects are being. Our partners have already pledged $4.3 billion out of the total $14.1 billion needed for the rapid recovery for the next 12 months. But we still need another $6.55 billion. We have set an ambitious goal of securing pledges for this amount as a result of this conference. control every stage of any recovery project in a very short period of time. One of the key questions we are constantly facing is who will pay the hundreds of billions for the recovery. First and foremost, Russia must pay for what it has destroyed.
And Ukraine's ambassador to South Africa, Lyubov Abravitova, has highlighted the challenging position that South Africa currently finds itself in. In an exclusive interview with our South Africa correspondent, Innocent Semusa, Ms. Abravitova says, as a strategic partner of Russia within the BRICS platform and a supporter of the UN Charter, South Africa faces a delicate balancing act. However, she emphasized that Ukraine respects South Africa's impartial stance in the conflict. The ambassador's remarks come in the context of the recent African peace mission led by President Cyril Ramaphosa, which engaged in constructive talks with leaders from Ukraine and Russia.
That mission was very much welcomed by the President Zelenskiy, because for us it was an opportunity to talk directly, immediately with 7 heads of delegations from Africa. It was important to explain our view on peace formula and to invite all these countries to join peace formula of Zelensky, which is the only formula that Ukrainians and Ukrainian government is ready to follow. It very much coincides, by the way, with many other initiatives that came recently from different countries of the world. It was important to show the war crimes and crimes against humanity that Russians committed in Ukraine, you know, that presidents were able to visit Bucha. They also were able to see the destroyed arms of Russian Federation, just to show the scope of and amounts of funds that Russia is putting into that war to destroy Ukraine. As your president mentioned, that was the mission to listen for both sides. And I think that certain achievements that you probably have in mind are to follow, and it very much will depend on further follow-up and further dialogue, both multilateral as it was established, but also bilateral.
Ambassador, what's your view in thinking about South Africa's stance on the conflict? What is your assessment on that?
I think it's a very difficult situation for South Africa, because being the strategic partner with Russia, sharing the platform of BRICS, and being a very firm supporter of UN Charter, that was confirmed, by the way, by the delegation and His Excellency Ramaphosa, the adherence to UN Charter and support of territorial integrity and sovereignty of all the countries. It is the position that South Africa chosen that we respect, because it's not only South Africa who chose this position of non-alignment. Thus, we really hope that this mission will be an eye-opener and will allow to bring the position of South Africa closer to Ukraine.